The crash. Cale Aaron had always been drawn to the unknown. As a young boy, he would stare at the night sky for hours, imagining worlds beyond Earth, planets filled with strange life, and adventures that no human had ever dared to undertake. That curiosity had led him here, to the distant planet Zithra, a place shrouded in mystery and rumored to be home to civilizations far more advanced than humanity. The mission had started like any other space expedition, smooth, controlled, and full of calculated plans. Cale and his small crew had trained for years for this moment. Their ship, the Aurora Vanguard, was state-of-the-art, equipped with the latest technology and protective shields. Yet, as Cale would soon discover, even the most advanced technology was no match for the universe's unpredictable fury. It began quietly. The ship's sensors detected a meteor storm forming along their path. Alarms rang, but Cale remained calm. He had navigated through asteroid fields before. "Stay sharp," he instructed his crew, his voice steady despite the rising tension. The storm, however, was unlike anything he had experienced. The meteors weren't small or distant. They were massive, moving at terrifying speeds, and they seemed almost alive, as if the planet itself were hurling them to defend its secrets. The first impact shook the ship violently. Metal screamed and twisted under the force. Cale gripped the controls, trying to stabilize the vessel, but the odds were against him. One by one, the meteors struck, tearing through the Aurora Vanguard's hull. Lights flickered and died, the oxygen system alarm blared, and the crew struggled to remain conscious. A sharp jolt threw Cale against the wall. Pain exploded through his body, every bone in his frame screamed at him. He realized with a shock that he must have broken several ribs, his arm felt wrong, and he couldn't move his leg without unbearable pain. Yet he didn't allow himself to scream. In moments like these, fear could be deadly. Survival demanded focus, not panic. The ship's navigation system failed completely. Cale glanced at the viewfinder and saw the alien landscape of Zithra rushing toward them. Jagged mountains, glowing rivers, and swirling clouds of strange colors created a surreal scene. But there was no time to admire the view. Impact was inevitable. With every ounce of strength, Cale maneuvered the ship toward what looked like a relatively flat plateau. He remembered every emergency protocol drilled into him over years of training. Even in agony, he checked the crew's status. His partner, Leora Venn, was slumped in her seat, unconscious but alive. Another crew member, Jaren Cade, was bleeding from a head wound but clinging to consciousness. Cale forced himself to ignore his own pain. There was no room for weakness, not now. The Aurora Vanguard crashed. The sound of twisting metal, shattering glass, and exploding circuits filled the cabin. Cale felt himself thrown forward, his body colliding with the console. He blacked out for a moment, consciousness slipping like water through fingers. When he awoke, the world was strange and silent, except for the faint hum of failing machinery and the distant roar of the wind outside. Pain was everywhere. Every breath hurt. Every movement felt impossible. Cale counted slowly in his head, each number a lifeline, a reminder that he was still alive. He tried to move, testing his body, and the reality struck him with brutal clarity. At least 17 of his bones were broken. Ribs, arm, leg, even his shoulder. A sharp pain shot through his spine and he nearly collapsed. But Cale refused to fall. Humans, he reminded himself, were resilient. Survival was not about avoiding pain, it was about enduring it, fighting through it, and finding a way forward. He checked on his crew members. Leora was unconscious but breathing. Jaren groaned, blood streaming from his head. Cale pulled himself toward them, each movement a battle. He managed to stabilize them as best he could, using straps and spare materials to hold injuries in place. Once he had done everything possible for them, Cale dragged himself out of the wreckage. The outside world was even stranger than he had imagined. The air shimmered with a faint glow, and the ground beneath him seemed alive, shifting slightly with every step. The sky above was a swirl of violet and gold clouds, unlike anything he had ever seen. Strange, insect-like creatures flitted through the air, watching him curiously but not approaching. Cale knew he couldn't stay there. The planet was unknown, full of dangers he couldn't yet perceive. He needed help, medical help. Somewhere in this alien world there had to be a way to survive, a chance to heal his broken body. That thought became his single driving purpose. With agonizing effort, Cale began moving across the landscape. Each step was a battle and he faltered more than once, falling against rocks and jagged edges. Pain shot through his limbs like lightning, yet he forced himself upright. Every fall was a lesson, every rise a declaration. He would not be defeated by injury, not here, not now. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. Time felt strange in the alien world. Kale's body was pushed to its limits, but his mind remained sharp. He scanned the horizon for signs of civilization, for any structure that might offer shelter or aid. Then, in the distance he saw it, a building unlike anything on Earth. Its surface shimmered with a soft, pulsing light, and its shape was fluid, almost organic. It radiated life, and somehow, Kale instinctively knew this was where he could find help. With renewed determination he crawled, limped, and staggered toward it. Every breath hurt. Every heartbeat felt like a hammer against his chest. Yet he moved forward. He refused to give in. This alien hospital, or whatever it was, represented hope, survival, and the chance to prove that even a human shattered in body could remain unbroken in spirit. Finally he reached the entrance. The shimmering doors opened silently as if sensing him, revealing a hallway filled with glowing panels and strange, floating lights. Kale's heart leapt. He had made it. He had survived the crash. But this was only the beginning. The real challenge was inside, an alien world of medicine, mystery, and beings far beyond human understanding. Kale knew one thing for certain. No matter how broken his body was, he would not fall. He would endure. He would survive. And he would show these aliens the strength of the human spirit. The alien hospital. Kale Aaron's body screamed in protest with every step, but he refused to stop. The wreckage of the Aurora Vanguard was behind him, and the strange, glowing structure ahead was his only hope. Its surface shimmered with shifting colors, pulsing blues, purples, and faint greens, and the building seemed almost alive. Kale couldn't explain it, but he felt a strange pull toward it as if it recognized him. The closer he got, the more surreal the surroundings became. The ground beneath his feet seemed to breathe slightly, rising and falling like the chest of a sleeping giant. Alien plants with translucent leaves swayed gently, though there was no wind. Even the air itself felt different, heavier but strangely energizing. Kale's body ached so much that he thought he might collapse, yet some deep human instinct kept him moving forward. Finally he reached the entrance. The doors slid open silently, revealing a corridor bathed in soft, bioluminescent light. The walls were smooth, made of a material that seemed halfway between glass and liquid metal. Strange symbols floated gently along the walls, moving as if alive. Kale could barely take it all in, but one thought dominated his mind: survival. Then he saw them. The aliens. They moved gracefully, their limbs long and elegant, almost spider-like, but somehow humanoid. Their skin shimmered with teal and silver patterns, and each of their 6 eyes glimmered like precious stones. Some hovered above the ground, others glided along the walls. Despite their strange forms, there was an undeniable intelligence in the way they moved. A particularly tall figure approached him. Its eyes focused on Kale, and its voice resonated in his mind like a gentle chime. "Human," it said, "you are injured." Kale swallowed the pain in his throat and nodded. Every movement was agony, but he forced himself upright. "Yes," he said, his voice hoarse. "I need help." The alien studied him for a moment, tilting its head. Then it gestured for him to follow. Kale took careful steps, leaning on fragments of his ship's wreckage he had carried with him for support. The alien seemed both curious and cautious, observing every movement he made. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. The room was unlike anything Kale had seen. Tubes of glowing liquid ran along the walls, pulsating in rhythm with the heartbeat-like thrum of the room. Machines hovered midair, scanning, analyzing, and adjusting themselves continuously. Soft lights danced across the chamber, illuminating tools and devices whose purpose Kale could only guess. A smaller alien approached, carrying a device that projected holographic images of Kale's body. The lights danced over him, scanning, measuring, calculating. Kale winced as the machine probed his injuries, each light sending a small jolt of pain through his broken bones. He gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. Humans endured even when the pain seemed unbearable. The tall alien, whom Kale later learned was called Dr. Zeleth, circled him, eyes scanning every inch of his body. 17 fractures, it said finally, its voice calm, yet filled with something Kale couldn't name. Unbelievable that you can stand. Kale managed a small, pained smile. "I told you humans can endure," he said quietly, though he knew they might not understand. It wasn't just a statement, it was a declaration of will. Every fiber of his being refused to collapse. The aliens moved around him, preparing their advanced healing machines. Unlike anything on Earth, these devices did not rely solely on medicine or surgery. They seemed to manipulate energy itself, adjusting the body's own repair mechanisms at a fundamental level. Kale watched, fascinated despite the pain, as the alien technology hovered around his broken limbs, analyzing and preparing for treatment. Hours passed, though Kale had no sense of time. The aliens worked silently but efficiently, communicating in a language he couldn't comprehend. Still, he felt their curiosity, their amazement at the sheer stubbornness of the human body. Other injured aliens in the room watched him with quiet fascination. Kale realized then that he was not just a patient, he was a demonstration, a living example of human resilience. At one point, the pain threatened to overwhelm him. A sharp jolt ran through his arm and Kale fell to one knee, gasping. One of the hovering aliens quickly steadied him, but Kale pushed back up. I will not fall, he whispered almost to himself. The words were simple, but they carried the full weight of his spirit. Dr. Zeleth paused, its multiple eyes focused on him. There was a long silence and then a sound, almost like a sigh, filled the chamber. The alien seemed impressed. Kale didn't know if it had a name for admiration, but he understood the feeling. His species had survived impossible odds for millennia, and even here, in a hospital light years away from Earth, humans refused to break. By the time the first treatments began, Kale was exhausted beyond measure. Yet he endured, cooperating with the aliens, learning how to move carefully, testing the limits of his broken body. He discovered that some of the alien machines responded to intent, responding faster if he focused on moving correctly, as if his will alone influenced the healing process. For the first time since the crash, Kale allowed a small thought of hope to enter his mind. Perhaps he would survive this. Perhaps, even broken, he could walk again. But the path would not be easy. The aliens' methods were strange and alien, the pain was relentless, and his body still protested every movement. Survival, he realized, was as much about mental strength as physical endurance. The alien hospital was no ordinary place. It was a crucible, testing every ounce of resilience Kale possessed. Yet in its strange corridors, with glowing machines and beings that seemed more energy than flesh, he felt something he had never felt in his life: the power of enduring against impossible odds. Kale Aaron had survived the crash. But the journey through the alien hospital would test him even more. Broken bones, strange technology, and beings beyond imagination, none of it would stop him. Humans were built to endure. Humans were built to survive. And Kale would prove that, here and now, in the heart of an alien world. He refused to fall. The examination. Kale Aaron had survived the crash. He had made it into the alien hospital, a place more extraordinary than he could have imagined. But survival was only the first step. Now he faced the true test, the examination. The aliens moved around him silently, their elongated limbs gliding through the air. Dr. Zeleth, the tall, teal-skinned alien with 6 glimmering eyes, hovered in front of him. The doctor's gaze was sharp, calculating, and strangely kind. Kale could sense intelligence unlike anything on Earth. A mind capable of understanding the body, life, and even pain in ways humans had only dreamed of. "You are severely injured," Zeleth said, its voice like a harmony of bells. Kale didn't answer. There was no point in describing what he already knew. 17 broken bones, deep bruises, cuts, and internal pain that could kill a lesser being. He had counted them mentally, each fracture a reminder of his survival. A smaller alien floated forward, carrying a device that resembled a crystal staff. Light pulsed along its surface as it projected holograms of Kale's body. The images rotated slowly, showing his bones, muscles, and vital organs in perfect detail. Kale watched as the aliens studied him, their expressions unreadable, yet full of fascination. "You should not be standing," Dr. Zeleth said after a long silence, its voice soft but firm. "Your body, it should have failed already." Kale's chest rose and fell with effort, but he held his gaze steady. Humans were not meant to be fragile. Humans endured. Even with 17 broken bones, he had refused to collapse. Pain might bend him, but it would not break him. "I'm still standing," Kale said quietly, his voice hoarse. "And I intend to stay that way." The alien seemed intrigued by his defiance. Dr. Zeleth's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, almost like a sign of approval. Kale realized that, for the first time since he had landed on Zithra, he was no longer just a patient, he was an example. A human, broken yet unyielding, standing in a hospital far beyond Earth, showing a species what resilience looked like. The examination began. Machines floated around him, scanning every inch of his body. Some measured the damage, calculating bone density and muscle strain. Others seemed to read the very essence of his body's energy, detecting internal trauma humans couldn't even sense. The process was strange, even painful at times. Every beam of light, every pulse of energy, sent jolts through Kale's broken frame. Yet he endured. He gritted his teeth, willed his body to remain upright, and allowed the aliens to conduct their work. Even when his leg buckled or his arm throbbed with unbearable pain, he refused to give in. Humans were built to face the impossible. And Kale intended to prove it. Hours passed. Time lost meaning in the alien hospital. Kale's body ached from every movement, yet his mind remained clear. He observed the aliens as they worked, noticing the precision, the intelligence, and even the care in their actions. They had never seen a human like him, that much was clear. Each scan revealed fractures that no ordinary human could survive without collapsing. And yet, here he was, standing tall, refusing to be broken. At one point, Dr. Zeleth paused, floating closer. "Your resilience, it is extraordinary," it said. Kale nodded, though a sharp pain shot through his shoulder. The alien didn't offer relief. Instead, it studied him more closely, as if trying to understand the source of his strength. Humans were fragile in appearance, yet Kale's presence challenged everything the aliens knew about endurance. Other aliens in the room began to gather, curious. Some hovered, others observed silently from the edges. Kale realized that he was now more than a patient, he was a demonstration of human spirit. The aliens had advanced technology, superior knowledge, and tools to manipulate life itself. But they had never encountered willpower like this. The examination continued into the night, or what Kale assumed was night. The hospital's bioluminescent walls bathed the room in a calm glow, but the pain in his body was relentless. His ribs throbbed with every breath. His arm felt like it had been crushed beyond repair. His leg protested every movement. But Kale stayed upright. Humans endured not because it was easy, but because they had no choice but to fight. Finally, after what felt like endless hours, the aliens paused. They exchanged signals, a complex pattern of light and sound that Kale could not comprehend. Then Dr. Zeleth focused on him once more. "You are remarkable. No other being in this galaxy, in our records, has survived this many fractures while remaining conscious and mobile." Kale's lips curled into a faint, pained smile. He didn't need their approval. Survival wasn't about recognition. It was about will, spirit, and the refusal to yield. Yet he couldn't deny a quiet satisfaction. Even here, in a world far from Earth, humans still had something no alien technology could replicate: the determination to stand no matter the cost. The aliens prepared the next stage, treatment. Kale had no idea what it would involve. The machines hovered closer, scanning his injuries, aligning beams of energy, and opening panels that revealed strange alien instruments. Some devices seemed to manipulate energy itself, accelerating natural healing processes. Others were more invasive, probing his fractures, testing his limits. Kale gritted his teeth. He was terrified, but he refused to show it. Pain was inevitable, fear was optional. Humans had survived eons of challenges: hurricanes, earthquakes, wars, disease, and the vacuum of space itself. A few weeks of alien treatment would not break him. As the first treatment beams touched his body, a wave of burning energy shot through his limbs. Kale groaned but stayed upright, focusing on each breath, each step, each movement. His mind became a shield, separating him from the agony and concentrating solely on survival. Hours turned into days. Kale's body began to respond, slowly but surely. The fractures, though severe, were aligning. The bruises, swelling, and pain began to decrease, aided by the alien technology. But the true change was not physical, it was in the way the aliens looked at him. Where there had been confusion and disbelief, there was now awe. Kale Aaron, a human broken in body yet unbroken in spirit, had proven what no alien science had predicted. He could endure. He could survive. He could stand when all odds suggested he should fall. And in that alien hospital, in a world far from Earth, the first seeds of respect for humanity were planted. Kale's journey was just beginning, but one truth was clear: humans were built to survive. Humans were built to endure. And Kale Aaron, despite 17 broken bones, would continue to show them how. The challenge? Kale Aaron had endured the crash. He had survived the alien hospital's first examinations, and even under the watchful eyes of beings far more advanced than humans, he had refused to fall. But endurance alone was not enough. The aliens were about to test him further, and Kale knew that the real challenge was only beginning. Dr. Zeleth floated toward him, its 6 eyes blinking in a sequence Kale couldn't decipher. "Human," it said, its voice a gentle but commanding harmony, "your resilience is unusual. But we need to understand the limits of your species. Can you endure more?" Kale's lips pressed together. He had survived 17 broken bones, a near-fatal crash, and the agonizing initial treatment. And yet, deep inside he felt a flicker of curiosity. The aliens didn't seem hostile, they were studying him. They wanted to know how far a human could go. And Kale, stubborn as ever, decided he would show them. I will endure, he said, voice strained but firm. I will not fall. The hospital's walls shifted subtly as if responding to his declaration. Machines hovered around him, scanning, projecting holographic charts and glowing lines that traced his broken limbs. Kale realized that the aliens were preparing a series of tests, physical, mental, and perhaps even spiritual. The air around him thrummed with energy, and he could feel the weight of countless alien eyes upon him. The first test was simple in concept but excruciating in execution. Kale was asked to move from one side of the chamber to the other, over uneven surfaces and obstacles, while the alien machines applied gentle, but insistent, resistance to his movements. Every step sent sharp pain through his ribs, his legs, and his shoulders. At times, his body threatened to collapse, but Kale focused on his breath, forcing each muscle to obey his will. You are remarkable, Dr. Zealot said after observing him for several minutes. No other being in our records could withstand this. Kale didn't respond. Words were not necessary. Every movement he made, every agonizing step was his answer. Humans endured not because it was easy, but because they had no other choice. Pain was a companion, but it did not control him. The second challenge was mental. The aliens projected simulations into Kale's mind, images of terrifying alien predators, collapsing structures and impossible mazes. His body remained in the chamber, but his consciousness was transported into these simulations. Many humans would have faltered, overwhelmed by fear. But Kale's mind, trained through years of discipline and survival instincts, remained steady. He navigated each scenario with focus and determination, his thoughts clear and his will unbroken. The aliens observed silently, recording, analyzing, and whispering to one another in a language Kale could not comprehend. They were fascinated. Here was a being who defied expectation, who turned weakness into strength, who transformed pain into determination. Finally, the third challenge began. This one tested both mind and body simultaneously. Kale was required to climb a vertical surface, smooth and metallic, while alien energy currents pulsed along it, attempting to destabilize him. His broken bones screamed with each movement. His arms trembled, his legs wobbled, and sweat stung his eyes. At times, he wanted to give up, to collapse into the floor and surrender to the agony. But Kale did not. He focused on the rhythm of the energy currents, adjusting his movements with precision. He relied not on strength alone, but on balance, patience, and his unyielding human will. Inch by inch, he ascended the wall, refusing to let pain dictate his actions. Dr. Zeleth hovered at the top, watching every movement, every twitch of muscle, every controlled breath. When Kale finally reached the summit, he stood there, trembling but unbroken. The aliens murmured to one another, a sound Kale could almost interpret as awe. You have exceeded all expectations, Dr. Zeleth said, finally breaking the silence. Your species, your kind, possesses a resilience beyond comprehension. You endure what should destroy you. Kale swallowed the pain in his throat and nodded. Humans endure, he said simply. We survive. We adapt. We rise even when everything falls around us. The aliens were silent for a long moment. Some hovered closer, examining him, while others floated to the edges of the chamber as if in contemplation. Kale realized that this was more than just a test. They were learning. They were beginning to understand what made humans extraordinary. Physical endurance was one thing. Mental resilience was another. But Kale's unbroken spirit, that refusal to surrender, was something the aliens had never encountered. As the challenges concluded, Kale collapsed onto the floor, every muscle and bone aching. He could feel the fractures in his body, the bruises, and the residual pain from the crash. Yet even as he lay there, sweat streaming down his face, he held his head high. Humans were built to rise after falling, and Kale had proven it once again. Dr. Zeleth floated down to him, observing him closely. You have passed, not only our tests but all our expectations. You demonstrate a quality we have never seen in another being. Unwavering determination in the face of impossible odds. Kale managed a faint smile, grimacing at the pain that shot through his body. Determination is the human way, he whispered. He didn't need to explain further. The aliens had seen it for themselves. The chamber hummed with a quiet energy, the alien machines retracting as if acknowledging his achievement. Kale felt a strange connection to the beings around him. Though they were alien, different, and incomprehensible in many ways, They now regarded him with a mix of curiosity and respect. Kale realized that this hospital, this planet, and these beings would remember him, not just as a human but as a symbol of endurance. Later, as he rested in a specialized chamber designed to support his body, Kale reflected on what had happened. He had survived a crash that should have killed him. He had walked into an alien hospital with 17 broken bones and faced tests that would have destroyed any other being. And yet he had stood tall. Kale Aaron knew one truth clearly: the human spirit could not be broken. Not by pain, not by fear, and not by the unknown. And if the universe wished to challenge humanity, it would find a species that refused to yield. The challenge had ended, but Kale's journey was far from over. The aliens now understood that humans were not just fragile creatures. They were survivors, fighters, and beings of incredible resolve. And Kale would continue to prove it, one painful step at a time. He had walked into the alien hospital broken. But Kale Aaron would not leave defeated. The trial. Kale Aaron had faced the crash, survived 17 broken bones, and endured the aliens' rigorous examination and challenges. But the true test of his human spirit had only just begun. The aliens called it the trial, a process unlike anything Kale had ever experienced, designed to push both body and mind to their absolute limits. The chamber was vast, larger than any Kale had seen before. Its walls glimmered with bioluminescent patterns that shifted like flowing water. Machines hovered in the air, their purpose mysterious yet purposeful. Dr. Zeleth stood nearby, along with several other alien observers, their 6 eyes focused on him with silent curiosity. "You are ready?" Zeleth said. Its voice rang in harmony with the hum of the chamber. "This trial will determine the extent of your endurance, human. Can your species survive what we consider impossible?" Kale didn't hesitate. He had survived the crash. He had walked into this alien hospital with 17 broken bones and refused to collapse. Survival was all he knew, and he would not falter now. "I will endure," he said simply. The trial began with physical tests. The chamber's floor shifted, creating uneven surfaces, obstacles, and sudden drops. Energy beams shot out from the walls, designed to destabilize him. Every step was agony. His broken ribs pressed painfully against his lungs. His fractured arm throbbed with every movement. And his leg, the one he had feared might never support his weight again, burned with pain. Yet Kale moved forward, careful, calculated, refusing to give in to weakness. The aliens watched silently, their curiosity growing with every step he took. Humans, they realized, were unlike any species they had encountered. Physical strength alone did not explain Kale's endurance. It was something deeper: determination, resilience, and an unshakable will. The next part of the trial tested mental endurance. Holographic images appeared before Kale, projecting fears, memories, and impossible challenges into his mind. Alien predators with razor-sharp limbs lunged at him. Collapsing structures threatened to crush him. Chaotic alien landscapes stretched endlessly with no way forward. Kale felt the panic rising. Any ordinary human might have collapsed under the pressure. But he forced himself to focus, separating reality from illusion. He remembered his mission, his survival instinct, and the truth that humans endured when all hope seemed lost. Step by step, he navigated the mental maze, refusing to be defeated. Dr. Zeleth hovered closer, its 6 eyes analyzing every reaction, every micro-movement. "Your species, it is remarkable," it said softly, almost in awe. "The mind and body are linked in a way we cannot fully comprehend." Kale didn't respond. Words were unnecessary. His actions, each deliberate step forward despite the pain and fear, spoke louder than any language. Finally, the trial entered its most grueling stage. Kale was asked to climb a vertical surface made of a smooth, reflective material. Alien energy currents pulsed along the wall, attempting to destabilize him. Each movement felt impossible. His arms shook with effort. His legs threatened to give way. Pain surged through his body with every step. But Kale refused to give up. He relied on balance, technique, and sheer willpower. Inch by inch he ascended. The energy currents tested him, the chamber tried to break him, and yet Kale Aaron, human and fragile by all appearances, continued to rise. Around him, the aliens whispered among themselves. Some hovered closer, others observed silently. The hospital had never seen a being endure such trials. Advanced technology could heal injuries, enhance strength, and accelerate recovery, but human willpower? That was a force they were only beginning to understand. Kale reached the summit, his body trembling, sweat dripping from his face, every bone screaming in protest. He stood tall, though his knees quaked and his chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. Dr. Zeleth approached him, multiple eyes fixed on his battered but upright form. "You have surpassed expectations," Zeleth said. "No being in our records could endure this, not in body, not in mind, not in spirit. You are extraordinary." Kale's lips curled into a faint, exhausted smile. I told you," he said, voice strained but firm, "humans endure. We rise even when everything falls around us." The aliens were silent for a long moment. Then one by one they began to retreat, allowing Kale a moment to rest. Machines adjusted around him, providing support and monitoring his recovery. His body was battered, yet alive. His mind, sharp and alert despite exhaustion, had passed the trial with flying colors. As he lay back, Kale reflected on what had happened. The trial had been more than physical tests. It had been a lesson in resilience, a demonstration of human spirit. Humans were fragile by appearance, yes, but their will to survive, to endure, and to rise against impossible odds was unmatched. Kale had shown the aliens this truth not with words, but with every agonizing step he had taken, every mental challenge he had overcome, every drop of sweat and pain endured. Dr. Zeleth approached one last time, its multiple eyes shining with what Kale recognized as admiration. "You are unlike any being we have encountered," it said. "Your spirit, it will be studied. Your endurance, it will be remembered." Kale nodded, exhausted but proud. Humans were survivors. That was their nature. No matter the pain, no matter the odds, they refused to yield. And Kale Aaron, broken yet unbroken, had proven that here, in an alien hospital light years from Earth. As he rested, Kale realized one thing. The trial had ended, but the journey was far from over. There were still challenges to face, still healing to endure, still lessons to learn. Yet he knew, deep in his heart, that he would continue to rise. Humans always did. Kale Aaron, the human who had walked into an alien hospital with 17 broken bones, had endured the trial. He had survived. He had risen. And in the eyes of the aliens he had become more than a patient. He had become a symbol. A symbol of what humans were capable of. A symbol of what the human spirit could achieve no matter the odds. The awakening. The chamber was quiet now. The trial was over, and Kale Aaron lay on a floating bed-like device that supported his battered body. The pain was still there, sharp and constant, but it no longer consumed him. He had survived the impossible. He had endured every test, faced unimaginable pain, and emerged standing. Yet Kale sensed that this was only the beginning of something greater. A transformation that was not only physical but deeply spiritual. Dr. Zeleth approached, its 6 eyes reflecting a soft, approving glow. "You are remarkable," it said. "Your resilience is beyond anything we have recorded. Your species, your kind, possesses a strength we did not fully understand until now." Kale nodded slowly, exhaustion heavy in his limbs, yet a spark of pride lit within him. "Humans endure," he said softly. "We survive. That's what we do." The aliens did not respond with words. Their silence, filled with quiet observation and study, was their way of acknowledging what Kale had already proven. He was no ordinary human. He had arrived broken, battered by a crash that would have killed most, and yet he had walked, climbed, and endured through every impossible challenge they had presented. The healing process began in earnest. Unlike human hospitals, the alien machines did not rely on surgery or medicine alone. They manipulated energy, restored tissue, and recalibrated the body's natural repair mechanisms. Lights danced over Kale's broken limbs, and energy pulses stitched muscles and bones together at a speed that defied human understanding. He could feel the fractures knitting, the pain slowly subsiding, yet he remained conscious, alert, and aware of every sensation. It was exhausting, yes, but it was also enlightening. Kale felt connected to the technology in a way that was almost symbiotic. He could sense the pulses of energy as they moved through his body, almost like the hospital itself was alive, nurturing him, guiding him. Pain remained, but it became a teacher rather than a master. Every jolt, every twinge reminded him of his limits, and his ability to surpass them. Days passed, or perhaps weeks. Time was different here, measured not in hours but in cycles of energy and light. Kale trained under the watchful eyes of the aliens, moving carefully to rebuild strength and test the limits of his healing body. Each session pushed him, challenging him to rise, to endure, to prove that the human spirit was not just resilient but extraordinary. Other patients, alien and fragile, watched him in awe. Some whispered to one another in their melodic language. "The human, he does not yield," they said. Kale realized then that he was more than a patient, he was an example. A living testament to the fact that human endurance was unmatched, even by the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Dr. Zelith approached again one day, its eyes glowing brighter than usual. Your progress is astonishing, it said. Your body heals faster than expected, and yet your spirit is what fascinates us most. No other being responds to adversity with such unwavering determination. Kale smiled faintly, though every movement caused him sharp pain. It's not about healing fast, he said quietly. It's about not giving up. Humans endure because we must. We rise even when everything falls. The aliens seemed to understand, not just in observation but in comprehension. Their advanced minds had seen countless beings fail, collapse, or surrender to their circumstances. But Kale did not. Even when exhausted, even when broken, he had refused to yield. That refusal, that stubbornness, that unbroken will, was something no technology could replicate. Slowly, Kale began to walk again without assistance. His movements were cautious at first, every step a negotiation with pain. The aliens watched closely, noting every micro-adjustment, every calculated motion. Yet with each stride, Kale's confidence grew. 17 broken bones had not defeated him. They had not broken him. And now, for the first time since the crash, he felt the strength of his human spirit radiating through his body. Dr. Zelith floated closer, watching him carefully. You are extraordinary human, it said. We have studied countless species across countless worlds. None possess what you have, the combination of physical resilience, mental clarity, and indomitable will. You are unique. Kale nodded, feeling a mix of exhaustion and pride. We are built to endure, he said. Not because it is easy but because we have to. Survival is our nature. The aliens continued their treatments, refining his healing, guiding him and observing. Yet Kale was no longer merely enduring, he was awakening. The pain that had dominated his body since the crash was giving way to awareness. Awareness of his strength, his limits, and his capacity to rise above both. He could move, think, and act with clarity, even when exhaustion lingered. And with this awakening came understanding. Kale realized that humans were not just fragile beings at the mercy of the universe. They were survivors, fighters, and creators. Pain could bend them, obstacles could block them, and injury could slow them, but humans would always rise. That was their nature. That was their gift. By the time Kale left the chamber for the first time under his own strength, he was not only healed but transformed. The aliens watched in awe as he walked tall, each step a testament to the resilience of humanity. Their admiration was silent but profound. He had entered the alien hospital broken, and now he walked not just healed but empowered. Kale Aaron had survived the crash. He had endured the trials. He had faced alien observation, rigorous challenges, and unimaginable pain. And now he had awakened, not just in body but in spirit. The aliens understood, at last, the true meaning of human endurance. The human spirit, fragile in appearance but unbreakable in essence, was a force unlike any other in the galaxy. And Kale, the human who had walked into their hospital with 17 broken bones, had become the living proof. He had endured. He had risen. And he would never fall again. The departure. Kale Aaron stood at the threshold of the alien hospital, looking back at the place that had changed him forever. The hospital's walls shimmered softly, pulsing with a life he had come to understand. It had been more than a place of healing, it had been a crucible, a test of endurance, and a stage on which the human spirit had proven itself against impossible odds. For weeks, Kale had undergone treatment, endured trials, and survived pain that would have destroyed most beings. 17 broken bones, exhaustion beyond measure, and challenges that tested mind and body alike, he had faced it all. And now he stood upright, healed, and stronger than he had ever been. Every movement was deliberate, every step a testament to resilience. Dr. Zelith floated beside him, its 6 eyes observing Kale with a mixture of curiosity and respect. You are extraordinary, it said softly. Your species, your kind, possesses endurance beyond what we thought possible. We have studied countless beings, yet none have demonstrated such willpower. You have walked into this hospital broken, and yet you leave whole in spirit as well as body. Kale nodded, feeling the familiar ache of his past injuries but also a newfound strength coursing through him. Humans endure, he said simply. We survive. We rise no matter the odds. Other aliens in the chamber watched silently, their attention focused entirely on him. Some had hovered close during his trials, fascinated by every action, every movement. Others lingered at the edges, exchanging subtle signals that Kale could not understand. Yet he sensed their admiration. The humans they had considered fragile were not fragile at all. They were survivors. Fighters. Beings who refused to yield, even when every circumstance suggested they should. Kale took a deep breath, letting it fill his lungs. The air on Zythera was different from Earth's, but it carried life in its own strange alien way. He had walked across this planet, crawled through debris and endured pain unimaginable. And now, standing at the threshold, he felt a sense of triumph, not arrogance but quiet, unshakable pride. He had survived. He had risen. Dr. Zeleth gestured toward the exit. "You may leave when you wish," it said. "But know this, you have changed our understanding. The resilience of your kind will be remembered. You have shown us a quality that no machine, no technology, and no being has ever replicated, unwavering human will." Kale took his first step toward the exit. The hospital's floor shifted gently beneath him, responding to his movements as if acknowledging his strength. Every step was careful, measured, but confident. His body was still recovering, yet he felt alive in a way that transcended physical pain. He had endured the impossible, and the human spirit had emerged victorious. Outside, the landscape of Zythera stretched endlessly. Mountains shimmered with iridescent hues, rivers of glowing liquid twisted across the land, and alien flora swayed gently despite the lack of wind. The sky was a swirl of colors, violet, gold, and deep blue, unlike any sunrise Kale had ever seen on Earth. Yet he didn't stop to marvel. He had a mission to continue, a journey that went beyond survival. The aliens watched him from the hospital's entrance. Some hovered silently, others glided along the walls. Kale realized that in their own way they were honoring him. He had not only survived, he had impressed beings far more advanced than humans could imagine. His endurance, his spirit, and his refusal to fall had left a mark on their minds and records. Kale paused at the edge of the hospital compound, turning once to face the towering structure behind him. He could see the machines pulsing softly, the lights shifting gently as if in acknowledgement of his struggle. He had walked in broken, battered by the crash, and yet he walked out healed not just in body but in spirit. Humans endured because they had no choice but to rise. And he had done just that. Dr. Zeleth approached one last time, a quiet hum resonating through its body. "You will carry this knowledge with you," it said. "The galaxy has witnessed what humans are capable of. Your endurance is extraordinary. Do not forget it." Kale nodded, a small smile crossing his face. "I won't," he said. "And I'll make sure others see it too. Humans endure. We rise. We survive." With that, Kale Aaron stepped fully into the alien landscape. Each movement was strong, deliberate, and confident. His body, once shattered, now moved with purpose. His mind, once clouded with pain and fear, was clear and focused. And his spirit, once tested by unimaginable odds, burned brighter than ever. As he walked away from the hospital, Kale knew that he carried more than his own survival. He carried the proof of humanity's resilience, the ability to endure, to rise, and to conquer challenges that seemed impossible. Zythera, with all its alien wonders, had witnessed the unyielding spirit of a single human. And through Kale, the galaxy would come to know what humans were truly capable of. The sun, or whatever passed for a sun on Zythera, rose higher, bathing Kale in light. He lifted his head, feeling the warmth on his face, and took a deep, steadying breath. Pain would always return, challenges would always arise, but Kale was ready. Humans survived because they endured. They endured because they refused to fall. Kale Aaron walked forward, leaving behind the alien hospital that had tested him, healed him, and witnessed his indomitable will. He walked as a survivor, a fighter, and a symbol of the human spirit. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the alien machines, a record was etched. A human had entered broken, faced unimaginable trials, and had left standing tall. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible. Humans endured. And Kale Aaron had shown them exactly how.